In traveling east from the Rocky Mountains, we decided to make a trip into South Dakota, passing over the windswept plains of Wyoming first for maybe 150 miles. And what we did is we ran into this national forest area. Totally unexpected, very beautiful. Came right out as soon as we crossed the border into South Dakota. We ended up in this beautiful forested region. Vanessa and I had already looked at the map, and we knew there was a national park. What was it called, Vanessa? Wind Cave? Was it Wind Cave? But we didn't know about this one until I looked at the map again. This one's called Jewel Cave. So we had. It was Wind Cave. Yeah, we were heading for Wind Cave, which is not too far from here, maybe 40, 50 miles. And then we also noticed Jewel Cave. So we decided just to pull in here and check things out. Met a really nice volunteer ranger, and he gave us guidance about how to get to the cave, which, as we now know, is down this trail. So, although the cave is not accessible at this point due to COVID, they've gated it up. There's about a mile, maybe a mile and a half hike to get to the cave, and it leads to the mouth of the cave. It's also a very warm day. It's about, I'd say, probably about 90 out right now in the sun, easily. And they say it's easy to find the mouth of the cave. You remember what it was, Vanessa? Vanessa's going to go mute today. It's because you'll feel a severe temperature drop. And I'll tell you as we walk along more about this cave system that we knew absolutely nothing about before we got here and looked on the map in South Dakota, western South Dakota. Here's a map. We're going to be heading down a thing called the Roof Trail. We just walked past the visitor center, and this green line here is a loop you can take. It's about 3.5 miles, according to the volunteer. And of course, probably at the very end of this loop is probably where the cave, Crystal Cave, Jewel Cave itself is located. Now, if you wanted to, you could take a much longer hike, but we're going to keep it pretty short because we're on the road traveling. So here's the visitor center. It's called Jewel Cave National Monument, according to this, and it's part of the National Park Service and the U.S. Department of the Interior. So let's proceed along. Well, first thing you got to do when you're navigating without a map is you got to look for signs that tell you which way not to go. And guess what? This is not the way to go. So we'll return over to here where Vanessa's walking now. Now, this area is not a national park. It's a national monument. And as I understand national monuments, it's a place that's undergoing the potential to become a national park. And I will tell you this, based on what we saw in the visitor center, particularly the video of the Jewel Cave, this should become a national park, and I'll tell you why. This may be one of the largest subterranean cave systems known about on the planet. In fact, mapping of it has only proceeded to about 1/20th of the cave system. That means literally people going down as spelunkers, cavers, and actually methodically exploring every possible way of moving further and deeper into the cave. And it's pretty astonishing. They can find something only a squirrel can go through, and on the other side of that opening there can be a vast cavernous 200 feet parlor and room where the cave has expanded out. And we saw in the videos associated with this cave system that people were literally having to remove clothing and pass it through ahead of them in order to be able to get any further in the cave system while they're exploring it. Okay, this is pretty obvious. The roof trail continues to the left.
So the LiDAR maps show about, what, 200 miles of trails?
Yeah, LiDAR is a way of using laser interferometry in order to be able to detect faults and other shifts in the geological formations in the earth. And apparently they have a basic idea, as Vanessa was saying, that this cave system actually can extend for 200 miles, which is extraordinary to think about. Okay, you'll notice as we walk that we are going downhill. Now you would expect to go downhill, and I'll tell you why. Because this cave system, according to the video we watched in the information system, is about 60 million years old. And it formed at a time where apparently there were huge shifts, and I think it may have had to do with some kind of inland sea that caused the Earth's crust to rise and fall in various locations. And what happened here is this area descended, but it also had, that inland sea left behind huge deposits of limestone. And limestone is particularly susceptible to vitrification or watering, because when limestone gets watered in any way, it turns into a mild acid. And that acid basically eats through the limestone formation, resulting in crevices. And apparently the process was so extraordinary here that those crevices extended, as I mentioned before, for how far, Vanessa?
200 miles.
Vanessa's not taking questions very well today, so every once in a while I'll sneak one in on her. So, during the formation of the cavern system, there was a huge crustal area of limestone. And what happened is, during the courses of rains over millions of years, what happened is the rains seeped down into the limestone dissolved with an acidic action, causing fissures and cracks and huge chambers to form under the earth about this entire region. And look at this region. It's really quite beautiful here. Very much like eastern Oregon, but there's more trees. But it's nicely sculpted. You can see a line of trees up there. There's riparian corridor areas. And this is a quite attractive area. It's certainly not as magnificent as you might expect of a place like Yosemite National Park, but it has a very benign beauty to it. Now, like most things natural, they're not necessarily known to people before they're discovered. Well, it just happens that this cave system, the mouth to this cave system, was discovered around the turn of the 20th century in the 1900s. And what it was is there were some prospectors out here looking for minerals. And as they were hiking through what is below, these meadows down below us, this canyon, they heard a whistling sound. And on hearing the whistling sound, it attracted them to a small opening in the rock, which we're going to get a look at once we get down to the cavern opening itself. Because they were prospectors, they were interested in determining what kinds of materials were found inside this opening. So they got some dynamite and came out a couple days later and blew open the cave mouth. And in so doing, what happened, Vanessa?
And they found beautiful crystals.
Which were?
So they named it Jewel Cave.
Jewel Cave.
And then they opened it up, they turned it into a little tourist spot.
Yeah, so it was a
they took care of it.
So it was a private, because they didn't discover anything of value down there other than the natural beauty of the cave system. They didn't actually begin any mining, but they started to explore the mouth of the cave system, thinking, you know, like most caves, we'll go in a couple hundred feet and then that's it. And boy, were they wrong. Now, Vanessa and I have actually done some caving before, nothing particularly challenging. We've done a video, it's one of our earliest videos done on this YouTube channel, Golden Phoenix Publish, where we went inside a cave, and you know what? I cannot even remember the name of the cave. Do you?
No,
Outside of Tucson?
It was in Arizona.
Yeah, it was outside of Tucson. Anyway, look for it. Maybe I'll probably post up a little reference to it on this video. But anyway, those caves were discovered very early by Native American peoples. What's the name of the tribe that dominates down there?
Oh, it's the Tohono O'odham, but this is a tribe that has disappeared.
That's right. This was a tribe that existed before Tohono O'odham Nation formed. And those people, what they would do is they would go down in the caves and they would, you know, light a torch, go down, find crystals and break them off. And they would also do burials down below, didn't they? No, Vanessa thinks I've got this wrong. How did it work?
Yeah, he has it wrong. Whoever opened up the cave to tourism sold off the
stalactites and stalagmites.
Yes, so if you go through the cave, you'll see that they're chopped off. And whoever opened up this cave to tourists, they did take care of it, so none of that happened. And I thought they called it the Crystal Cave because there's a lake down there.
Jewel.
Oh, Jewel, right.
Right.
Just absolutely pure water with a reflection of the top.
Now this little story about the different kinds of approaches to commercializing nature's assets like these caves illustrates something. There are those who commercialize on an entrepreneurial level that are basically trying to make a living out of it. And they would end up selling things like little pieces of the crystal or stalactites and stalagmites. And there are those who discover something like this, and they're also entrepreneurial, but what they try to do is to preserve the natural beauty of the caves, or whatever it is they start. So there are businesses out there in the world, all around us, who are either pushing for profit maximization in the moment, or there are businesses that are basically taking the big picture point of view and saying, look, if we preserve this over a long period of time, there'll be far more wealth generated. And at the same time, the natural beauty will be sustainable. Okay, this is the first indication of something unexpected on our hike. There's a fenced-off field that looks like it has a large pool in it, and the sign says, keep out contaminated water. Well, I mean, we could speculate about where this came from, but contaminated water is often the result. Oh, this is actually for sewage treatment. Oh, that's excellent. While the cave system was discovered by a couple of prospectors who subsequently did right by it, made it a tourist attraction, and then did not allow for the exploitation of the cave, it was in the 1950s that a couple, I think they must have been in their 20s or 30s, started hiking around this region and doing climbing. And as they did so, now, like I said, I watched the video, I didn't memorize all these names, but this couple met a geologist. And the geologist became interested in the cave, and they decided, hey, we've already hiked most of this region. Why not start hiking inside the cave? It'll be even more challenging, and we'll get all the exercise and supposedly, in quotes, outdoors time that we originally set out to have as hikers and climbers. The geologist pioneered some interesting methods of determining the amount of volume inside the cave system. What he did is he noticed that as the barometric pressure changed outside the cave, in other words, the basic way the air is right now, the barometric pressure, which is probably at this altitude about 25 inches of mercury, he would notice that air would come out of the cave. And he could measure the velocity at which the air came out of the cave, and he would get a sense of, well, and how long this exiting gas came out, and he could determine roughly the volume of the exposed space within the cave system at the mouth of the cave. His initial readings were enormous, and I don't know the numbers, but I think we're somewhere in the 1 million cubic feet if not meters, of space. Subsequent refinements of that method of barometric pressure differential indicated that the volume of the caves was at least 10 times the initial estimations done by this young geologist who had only recently graduated from college in the late 1950s. So as we continue our hike down this trail to the Jewel Cave entrance, I would note that there are several other entrances to the cave. And what we learn about is that one of the other entrances is highly populated by wintering bats. And so zoologists studying bats out of the local college here, there's a college in Wyoming, I think they're out of Wyoming, not out of South Dakota College, come here to basically keep track of their health, living conditions, putting temporary tags on bats so they can follow their travels through the cave. And that particular opening is not available to the general public. So there may actually be other openings, but I'm talking to the rangers. They say, yeah, we pretty much want to keep access to the caves limited for very good reason. And I'll tell you one very good reason. I personally, without having much experience spelunking, without necessary equipment and precautions, might find it very difficult if I entered the mouth of a cave, wandered in several hundred yards with no clear idea of where I was going in, whether or not I would be able to get back out again. So spelunking is a very cautious form of exploration. Well, here below us is a sweeping bowl-shaped canyon, and it goes off to the left. Now, if I did not know where the cave mouth was located, I would possibly speculate that down below us from this ridge is likely to be the barred cave entrance that may have been discovered. Now, it may not necessarily be here, but the interesting thing is this is the kind of formation that potentially now there's an awful lot of fallen soil which cover up most cave openings, which is the main reason why I don't think it's here. This is the service road we came down. There's the kiosk we had a look at. And here is the marker for Canyon's Trail. And this is the direction we're going to go on pure speculation, because there is no demarcation on any of these maps, nor is there any indication on any of these signs that says Jewel Cave entrance this way. Like many areas in the west, especially this year in the northwest, as well as California, there's evidence of fires here in the past. Of course, the fires have been getting, the magnitude of fires has been growing, and there's a variety of reasons for this. You'll notice there's a stream bed down below. No indication that water has flown here recently, not even any pools. But we can imagine that with the snowpack melting and running off, that it becomes quite brisk at times. But this is one of the things I've noticed personally about the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast. When I lived in Connecticut, streams flowed year-round, unless of course they were frozen over. There was always enough precipitation there to create fully seasoned water flow. Since moving to the West Coast, Northwest, Arizona, Oregon, California, you'll often find dry stream beds. And this is an indication that there's not enough snow at the higher altitudes to form glaciers to feed water down these beds all year round. This particular area does not seem to have any high mountains, which would indicate that there is no glaciation, and as a result, the stream beds pretty much dry up as soon as the snowmelt and snowpack melts away. Having seen as much of this canyon as I think makes sense, And now, having heard a truck climbing the hills off in the distance on the highway, I'm pretty much going to give up on this canyon as being the location of the caves. I will, of course, point out to the park volunteer that there's no indication of anything, any signs saying where the cave is located, but I think I have found an easy route to get back to where we're going, and that involves scaling that little incline.
Easy. I don't know.
We'll see. I'll try it first, Vanessa. Today is Thursday, the 24th of September, the day after we endeavored to find the cave mouth at the Jewel Cave. But within 40 miles of Jewel Cave is another cave system called Wind Cave. This one appears to be much better marked, and there's a trail that leads about a quarter of a mile or less down to the cave. Now this particular trail says it's to the visitor center, where we just spent about an hour visiting with the rangers there and talking about it. And also it looks like it is the natural entrance to the Wind Cave. So the visitor center is about 350 yards away, probably less than a quarter mile, and we're going to walk down to the cave entrance here so we can give folks an opportunity to see a cave entrance. And for the same reason as the Jewel Cave, we will not be able to enter the cave, but we will go to the mouth, and we will be able to experience the flux of air as it comes in and out as the cave breathes with changes in barometric pressure. Hey folks!
Hi there!
Where are you guys out of?
Georgia.
Whoa! Yeah. Is this like COVID break time for you guys? Or?
We started traveling before COVID, actually. We left Georgia in October.
Are you kidding?
So we were kind of lucky to get ahead of the curve a little bit, and then we hunkered down in Utah for a few months, and
right.
Now we're back on the road.
When do you expect to return to Georgia, or not at all?
We're going back in December, and then we hope to hit the road again and do like the East Coast.
Well, you saw our little teardrop trailer back there.
I love it.
That's how we get around. We have a
awesome.
place in Tucson, and when it gets hot, we leave. But now we have another place in John Day, Oregon, so we can winter and summer. We don't have to spend as much time on the road. But going back and forth, we can take whatever route we want.
And you can take that little thing anywhere.
So Vanessa's exploring the dandelions that are growing here in the picnic area of Wind Cave Park. And while she does so, I'll outline a few things. There is speculation, although not highly probable, that Wind Cave, which is down this trail, actually connects up with Jewel Cave. But that's a little bit inconsistent with the proportions of cave capacity distance versus its radius, how far it goes out. And I learned today in talking with the local rangers that it's about 140 to 1. So if a cave system extends for 200 miles of actual cave, that means really it only extends maybe 2 to 3 miles in radius, or 2 to 3 miles in diameter is probably a better way to say it. So it's very unlikely that the cave system from here to Jewel Cave is actually connected. But what I have learned about Wind Cave is that people who are digging wells for their personal water have experienced an outrush of gas, of air, whenever they dig within a couple of mile radius of here, of the Wind Cave entrance here, which tells them that the Wind Cave area beneath the surface probably extends 4 or 5 miles across, which means it too probably has an extensive area of actual travel if you were to go and put a pedometer on and start walking the caves and exploring it. So here, like in most parks, what you have these little marquees that will give you a little information about it. We've heard wild turkey. We understand that there are large elk. Oh, and there's a lot of mushrooms, the shaggy mane mushroom. And so this is a little bit about the environment of this region. There up above is the visitor center, you can see above us. Now why we couldn't have just hiked to the cave from there, they recommended that we come down to the picnic area to begin our hike. And oh, I wonder if this is the cave mouth. And obviously it isn't, and the way I can tell, Vanessa, is there's no efflux of air going in and out. That's just a little cavity. And besides, we know that the real cave mouth is covered.
And you say that the visitor center was built by the CCC?
No, I didn't say that, but now everybody can learn it from the video. Yes, this is one of the CCC sites.
There you go.
That's it?
That's it.
I was looking to walk a lot farther. Here indeed is the one of the mouths of the cave, which aren't you supposed to be able to go inside?
I think you can, but not from here. Like I think you have to take an elevator from like the visitor center.
Oh.
But they're not doing any types of tours.
Right. The elevators.
Right, there are no tours. The elevator's broken. It's been broken for about a year.
Yeah, which is wild.
They were nursing it along for a long time because they had so many tourists, the rangers told me, that they wanted to just keep, you know, being able to support the tourists. And a lot of the support financially for the rangers came out of the fees to go down the elevator, so they were pushing its longevity a bit. When they finally took it down, something major broke, the control system, but in repairing the control system they also discovered there were a host of other little maintenance issues they needed to attend to, and they did not give me a prediction about when it would be back online.
That's wild. I can't believe that it's been broken for so long. I have a look over here eating grass.
There we go.
Come on, dude.
Told by the ranger you can step over this wall to get right up next to the airport. It is very cool, but the rocks are quite slippery, especially when you're wearing flip-flops. Here, let's have this.